Hey everybody, I am jumping in to let you know right here before the episode starts that on February 8th we are going to be coming out with our first ever Patreon exclusive episode where we will be covering the 2020 Oscars and kind of the 2019 year in film. Very excited about this. You will hear us in the Goblet of Fire episode talk about this idea. This is why I am backlogging this. But otherwise, you got to sign up for Patreon to get it. Otherwise, it will not be on your normal feed. It's just going to be a short little episode, but we're very excited to kind of cover everything. We've seen most of the best pictures, so we got the goods on this one. All right, enjoy the episode. Everybody, welcome back to the Micah Podcast Universe. This is the podcast where we take a film franchise, we go through every single entry within it, and we decide definitively what is good and what is bad. And we are the authorities on this issue, Micah and Jordan Micah. And we have gone through a couple of series, and we are now on to one of Jordan's favorite series, Harry Potter.
And today it's Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
That's right, folks. And if you remember from last episode, I was kind of late to the Harry Potter show. But I think when we were finishing up this movie, I think I get it now.
You caught the bug.
I think I am in because Chamber of Secrets rules. It's going to be very tough for me to like one of the Harry Potter movies more than this one, I think. This one is a total banger. Mm-hmm. It is just like... It takes everything from the first movie, builds upon it. The story's really fun, and the effects are really cool. And even the CGI looks pretty darn good. Mm-hmm. But especially like the practical effects they use are incredible.
Yeah, and the sets still.
The sets still, and the actors that they add, like Kenneth Branagh, mm-hmm. and then the girl who has the what are those called?
Moaning Myrtle?
No, the things that they pull out of the ground that scream.
Oh, a mandrake?
Yeah, the teacher who runs that class, she's great. Mm-hmm. The one kid who takes pictures is like kind of whatever
Colin
to me. But
Creevy or something like that. Creevy.
And I just realized why he's in the movie.
Tell me.
Because I was talking about this morning, that this is kind of like a little bit of a noir mystery story.
Yeah.
And he's like the reporter that's in those movies and those types of stories. That's kind of cool.
Also,
Chamber of Secrets just got even better.
Important that he was always taking pictures.
Yeah, because that does come back, right?
Well, yeah, because that's why he didn't die. That's why he was only petrified.
Right.
Because he saw the basilisk through the camera, not with his eyeball.
That's true. But it is also like... It's probably that archetype because that kind of just felt natural when she was writing like a mystery story.
Yeah.
So we're on number 2. It is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. As with the first movie, it's directed by Chris Columbus. As with all of the Harry Potter movies, it is the screenplay by Steve Kloves. And the music is by John Williams again. And then the cinematography is by Roger Pratt, who has had a very storied career. He did not do the first Harry Potter movie, but he will do Goblet of Fire.
Okay.
And he did the movie Chocolat with Johnny Depp and whoever else. He did 12 Monkeys.
How old is this guy?
He's pretty old, yeah. And he did...
Oh, when you said 12 Monkeys, I thought of 12 Angry Men.
Oh, no.
12 Monkeys is still an older movie, but...
But he did this one, which I thought was pretty cool. He did Tim Burton's Batman, the very first one. He did the cinematography, so very good guy. Very good guy. Production by Warner Brothers, Heyday Pictures, and 1492 Pictures, just as with the first one.
Yeah.
Distributed by Warner Brothers. Comes out November 15th, 2002, a year after the first movie comes out.
and it has a budget of $100 million.
Less
Domestic
than the first one?
was that less
Wasn't
than
the first one like 120?
I'll double check that. Let me see. Let's go.
I mean, it was definitely at least 100,000. I don't see how it couldn't be. Trying not to.
130 million.
And this one was less?
This one was less. And
How?
it looks like it's more.
Yeah. That's crazy. Well, usually I feel like movies just get more expensive every year just because of the economy, too.
Yeah. Oh, man. In this economy, making a sequel? Whew.
Yeah.
And so domestically, the movie makes $262,450,136. And then worldwide makes, again, these are huge numbers now, but back then these numbers are astronomical. And I want to point out to the listener that this is the same year that The Two Towers came out and Attack of the Clones, Star Wars. So we have three of some of the biggest movies ever made. I believe Two Towers topped the box office this year and beat Harry Potter, but Harry Potter was number 2, I believe, of the box office.
Star Wars didn't even beat it?
I don't think so, because Attack of the Clones, as we all know, say it with me, is the worst Star Wars movie by a mile. And so worldwide, this movie makes $879,465,594.
Wow, good work.
It's crazy.
Yeah. What a profit.
Yeah, it is a profit.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I was thinking of E.T. instead of F-I-T. Profit.
Huh?
You said what a profit, and I was thinking of Harry Potter as a prophet.
Oh, a profit. Oh, okay.
It's produced by David Heyman, and the production of this movie begins 11/19/2001, 3 days after The Philosopher's Stones hits theaters.
How many days?
3 days.
Okay.
So I guess that would be the Monday after the Friday in which Philosopher's Stone was released.
Okay.
They hired a linguist named Francis Nolan to make Parseltongue.
Cool.
So here's something that kind of stinks. For some reason, with this movie and the previous movie, I had a hard time finding a lot of information out about them.
Okay.
A lot of it looks like from scouring through YouTube and Googling stuff, I think a lot of, especially the special effects, are explained in future movies.
Okay.
Which stinks because I think this movie does a really impressive job with special effects, but I could not find a lot of it, so I had to rely on just looking at interviews and stuff like that. And even, listener, a lot of times I go to Wikipedia and I'll go through the production, and then if there's something interesting, I'll go to the article it's taken from and do more research. The production for this movie was pretty small, which was a bummer because I feel like there's probably a ton of cool stories in there. But
yeah.
I did my best.
Yeah. I wonder if they had like a pre-approved budget and then they just only spent that much on it.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe since the studio okayed it before the other movie even came out, they're just like, stick to this.
Yeah, maybe.
So the teaser trailer for this movie was attached to the Scooby-Doo movie, the first Scooby-Doo movie.
Right on.
I thought that was kind of funny. And then there was a orange ball that was walking around the room that was Dobby. They had
on a stick?
Yeah. Something like that. I couldn't find pictures of it, so I'm not sure. I just heard
Chris
Columbus and Harry Potter talking about it.
And Harry Potter?
Yeah, he's real. The one thing I did want to point out, though, so in this year, you have Dobby and you have Gollum and Smeagol, which we'll get into maybe more later, some comparisons there. But what I wanted to point out is...
Wait, which movie came out first?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But Attack of the Clones is a movie that infamously has a million special effects in it.
Yeah.
And in that movie, if you're watching it, you see that the actors kind of don't know what to do because this is this turning point. These 5 years is when all of these special effects start happening and we start getting like mocap performances and stuff like that. And so you're watching Attack of the Clones, and when you watch it now, well, wait, what do you have? Did you find something?
This movie came out a month before.
1 month before.
So Dobby beat Gollum.
Dobby beat Gollum.
Dobby beat Gollum.
But I just think if you watch Attack of the Clones and this movie, the level of acting, especially from Daniel Radcliffe, dealing with a fully animated character that is not in the room with him is really impressive, actually.
Mm-hmm.
If you look, especially that scene where he's in the room with him, when you first meet Dobby at the beginning of the movie, he's acting great.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at like Christian Haydenson or even like Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman, and I think this is more on George Lucas's fault and just the fact that there's new technology that people don't understand yet. They don't really know what they're doing in Attack of the Clones. And a lot of times you can tell that the actor's like, okay. Like there's this behind the scenes footage where Natalie Portman is in this totally blue room. And this is, again, before like blue rooms were a thing. And George Lucas is just like, okay, jump over this like pole. And then he's like, duck now. And she's like, she literally turns to him and she goes, what am I doing? And he's like, don't worry, we'll figure it out. It's something like that.
Way.
Or not, we'll figure it out. But she literally is like, I don't know what to do. Because he's not directing her well.
Yeah.
And they're figuring out the technology. I don't want to bash on George Lucas.
But he can't even tell her like motivation of the scene.
It didn't seem like it. But it's some kind of telling footage
I'm curious,
to watch.
like what Chris Columbus did or Peter Jackson did, and their directing to make it good. Because I know that they, like we're talking about motion capture, they're both, all three of them are using very new things.
Mm-hmm.
So how did their direction work? That's what I want to know.
Well, I think with Two Towers, you look at it and you go, there was an actor on set that they painted out.
So there's that.
And so, Elijah Wood and what is Sam's act? Sean Astin are looking at Andy Serkis, and all three of them are acting.
Yeah.
So they can like interact with a real person. In this movie, I would love to know what Chris Columbus did, because you have a child looking at an orange ball, emoting with this orange ball. And I didn't hear them mention anything about like an on-set actor. I don't know. Maybe if someone knows, I would love to find out, or if there's like a featurette somewhere that I couldn't find. Because I think it's a really impressive that Daniel Radcliffe pulled that off.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
The slugs that
Ron
pukes were fake slugs that they had different flavorings on them.
Yeah.
Like lemon or chocolate or mint. And so
he would have to hold them in his mouth for each shake and spit them out.
So yeah, so those are real.
What's gross is like
slugs.
They're so slimy. What if they slid down his throat?
I think they were probably too big. I mean, they were pretty
big.
big.
But what if?
Yeah, I don't know.
Ugh.
But I mean, that's kind of cool, because I looked at that scene when we watched it and I was like, if they did CG on this, I have no idea how they pulled it off, because it looks so real.
Yeah.
They didn't. They had fake food, which is cool. And then I kind of wanted to start a little tradition for Harry Potter and quote Roger Ebert.
Okay.
So he, like the previous movie, gave this 4 stars, and he basically in his review is like, Philosopher's Stone like set up the bowling ball pins, set up the pins, and then this movie just knocks it down. And he was just like, I love this movie, going off about it. And then he said this at the very end. He goes, while I am usually in despair when a movie abandons its plot for a third act given over entirely to action, I have no problem with the way Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets ends, because it has been pointing toward this ending, hinting about it, preparing us for it all the way through. What a glorious movie. And that's the notes that I have for this movie.
All righty. Well, our first actor in this movie who plays Dobby is Toby Jones, who is in Captain America. He plays Dr. Arnim Zola.
What?
And then...
Wait, can you show me a picture?
That guy.
That guy is Dobby?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So he's in so much stuff. He's in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, Hunger Games. Let's see. Christopher Robbins.
Isn't he in Sherlock?
Jurassic World. Probably. I mean, he's an actor that's in so much, but I don't think anyone knows his name.
Yeah.
You know? And it's interesting because I'm seeing just a lot of acting.
Yeah.
And for this, he did a voice.
Yeah.
That's cool. And he did a really good job.
He was in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I don't think he was in the first Jurassic World.
I just didn't click on it. And then, sorry, let me find specifically. And then we have Gilderoy Lockhart, who is played by Kenneth Branagh, who we have actually we've actually covered in this podcast.
We have
Thank
in our
goodness.
Thor episode.
He directed Thor.
Yes.
He is also in. He also directed and starred in Murder on the Orient Express.
Very.
He's
bad.
also Sir Kenneth Branagh, I believe. I believe he's been knighted by the Queen.
But she actually knighted Gilderoy Lockhart.
Yeah,
Is what I heard.
So he is such a theater dude.
Yeah.
More than anything, I would say, even though he's directed film, like he is a film guy too. But I mean, I don't need to look up if he's done stage acting.
You know.
But he is also in on the screen Henry V, Hamlet, Much Ado About Nothing.
Yeah.
He's a Shakespeare bud.
He's a Shakespeare bud.
And he's also he's a very prolific actor. Mm-hmm. Very, very good all the time. I think he is very well casted and very funny cast
he is
choice.
Fantastic in this movie.
But funny cast choice is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because he I appreciate this. And I wonder what it would be like. I wonder who they would cast today for this character.
Sure.
Because he's supposed to be a very suave, handsome guy that like even the girls at school are like crooning over. Oh. Yeah. And so it's just funny because I'm like, I don't find him. I mean, I guess like maybe he's classically handsome.
Yeah.
But I think even as a kid, it was like, he looks kind of funny.
Yeah.
To me. But I think that he was so perfectly casted because of that, because he's like the theater.
Yeah, I think he
Handsome,
has a lot of bravado.
Big personality. Yeah, bravado is a lot of it. Charisma. He has so much charisma. So I think he was like he's just an obvious cast choice for that character.
Yeah.
But who else was in this movie that Moaning Myrtle?
We should just say what Moaning Myrtle has done recently in 2019.
Can't find her though. Shirley Henderson.
Shirley Henderson.
She is also Babu Frick.
In Star Wars Episode 9, she's Babu Frick, who is going to be running on the ballot with Baby Yoda as president next year, and I'm voting for him. Babu Frick and Yoda and Frick 2020.
She's also in a lot of other movies. It looks like a lot of British stuff.
Okay.
Not that that's not worth mentioning, just a lot of British stuff.
You're still a little sore about that whole revolution, aren't you? That's why you don't like to talk about the British stuff.
Totally. Toodly oodly. Okay. And then the guy who plays Tom Riddle is Christian Coulson, who I've never seen in anything else but this movie. His profile picture also looks very different.
Okay.
Than the movie. Looks like he is on a lot of. He's in the show Nashville. Oi, oi, oi. And a lot of TV shows and a lot of British stuff.
Okay.
It seems like I'm doing a bad job, but sometimes it's just
no.
worth
You're
getting
good.
into
You're just cracking me up with all your oi, oi, oi.
Oh, this is important. Cornelius Fudge, the Minister of Magic, is played by Robert Hardy.
He's the one who comes into Hagrid's when they have the invisibility
and he's in
cloak
several
on.
of these movies because he is the Minister of Magic for a while until the guy's name starts with an S. I can't remember what it's like, Scamander or something.
Okay.
Until he becomes the Minister of Magic.
When is Umbridge in the series?
5.
Oh, I can't wait to get my Umbridge on. She's my favorite character.
But yeah, so he's in quite a few things. Looks like he played Winston Churchill in a movie.
Oh wow. He's Gary Oldman?
Yeah, he's Gary Oldman. Robert Hardy. Good for him, right?
The greatest acting job of all. He's two different actors.
Julian Glover plays Aragog, who apparently is in Indiana Jones. Let's see which one. And The Last Crusade.
Wait, is that the Mandrake
Walter
girl?
Donovan. No, Julian Glover. Aragog, the spider. Oh. Is he the bad guy? That looks like the bad guy of Indiana Jones.
Let me see.
That's totally him, right?
Huh. I don't recognize this guy.
Oh, maybe not. He just kind of looks like him. Can I see it?
Yeah, sorry. You'll have to get out of the... Here, I'm trying to set it up for you.
Let's see.
You looking up a picture of him as Indiana Jones?
No. I'm sorry. I think it's this other guy. I don't think it's him. I always forget that Gimli's in Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I remember being at Disneyland and going on the Indiana Jones ride, and they have that little movie playing.
Oh, yeah.
As you're in line, and my dad's like, guys, that's Gimli. And I remember just being like, oh my gosh. Because I had seen the movies already, but I was just like, I can't believe it.
What was that guy's name? The actor?
I don't know.
Oh, dang it. Okay. That's
I'm
okay.
not scrolling back.
That's okay.
And And then, I mean, there are obviously other kids that play some parts in this movie that I have not gone over, but I kind of feel like I'm not going to go over them until they actually have something to do in the story.
That's fine.
Because there's just so much. But Jason Isaacs. Oh, duh, Lucius Malfoy. Come on.
Oh yeah, you got to hit him up.
He is. Oh my gosh, that's right. He plays No, he's in Peter Pan, the live action movie, but like the one with the cute kid. Timmy and Veronica.
Cute kid.
It's just an older movie.
Okay, I don't think I know what you're talking about.
He is also in The Patriot. He is also in.
See, he's eternally etched
The
in
Dark
my mind
Crystal.
as he's in The Dark Crystal,
The TV show. Cool.
Oh yeah, I think we heard his voice when we watched that
I think
episode.
we did.
But to me, he is just that guy from from The Patriot, because he's such a bad guy in that. You remember him in that?
Wait, say that again.
He's the bad guy in The Patriot.
Well, yeah, I
and
know.
he's just like so bad that he's just like eternally etched in my mind as that guy.
He plays a good bad guy.
Yeah, well,
he's also in Star Trek, not the movie, like William Shatner.
Oh, interesting.
Time.
Well, but
I bet he's a bad guy.
I wanted to tell you that Chris Columbus was talking about the casting of Jason Isaacs, and he said a funny thing where he's like, it was great working with Jason Isaacs, and the camera just like loves to be evil with him, or he said something like that. It's like he looks evil on screen.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like with all the other actors I'm talking about, he's just in a lot of British stuff, several TV shows. I'd say he's much more mainstream than most of the other people I've covered.
Yeah.
Great guy. Love him.
Surprised that he hasn't been in a Marvel. He seems like a shoo-in for a bad guy.
Played, I guess this isn't Marvel, but looks like in like some kid's Superman version, he played Lex Luthor.
Oh, okay.
Of a cartoon or something.
That makes a lot of sense.
So it looks like he does actually a lot of voice acting as well as acting.
Cool. He's got a great voice.
He does.
For that voice.
No. Oh, we should cover Mark Williams, who plays Mr. Weasley.
Okay.
He is in Harry Potter. Oh, that's right. He's in 101 Dalmatians, a live action remake. Action movie with Glenn Close. And I think he's one of the dudes that kidnaps all the dogs.
Oh,
I think.
Sure, yeah.
Because I'm just like seeing his face right now. He also kind of looks like one of the guys in the cartoon. Very well casted. I hope that's who he plays. But you've guessed it, listener, a lot of British stuff.
Oh, really? I'm surprised.
Yeah. And then Julie Walters, who plays... Wait a second. Oh, Julie Walters plays Mrs. Weasley. She is in Paddington 1 and 2 as is she like a great aunt or something?
Yeah.
Wonderful character. She is so good in Paddington. She's also in Mamma Mia, Brooklyn, Mary Poppins,
the new
Sherlock
one, or Mary
Gnomes.
Poppins Returns?
The new one. The new one.
Yeah.
Mary Poppins Returns. Whatever. But yeah, looks like she also does a lot of voice acting, a lot of children's stuff. She's in Brave as well.
Okay.
Great lady.
To confirm, Mr. Weasley is one of the bandits. Horace is his name. So,
cool,
all right, let's jump into the plot. Hey.
Yeah, I'm done.
So the movie begins. We see Warner Brothers logo. No, I'm kidding. Well, I mean, we do, but how does it actually begin? What's like the first sequence? We're just at the Dursleys' house, right? Mm-hmm. And there's going to be people coming over. That
it's really important to Mr. Dursley because they're like business people. It's a married couple, and he needs to make a really good impression on them.
Yeah.
And he's like ready, like I have my whole golf story ready for them.
Yeah.
And he's like, Harry, what are you going to do the whole time? And he's like, I'm just going to be quiet in my room.
Yeah.
And I think at one point too, they're even like, you shouldn't be so ungrateful. We gave you Dudley's extra room.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh, yuck. So pretty much Harry is...
Oh, they say extra room?
Yeah.
So
something like that.
The implication is that, but when he was living under the staircase...
There was an extra room.
Oh my gosh, that makes it so much worse.
Yeah, but of course it's like he's tall, he's bigger now, so he can't live under there. Oh. You know, it's just, yeah,
it's even
gross.
worse than I thought.
So, Harry's confined to his room for the evening as this little get-together's going on. That's really important to him. And as he's in his room, he is visited by an elf, a house elf named Dobby.
This is Dobby. And I gotta say, Dobby holds up. He looks good. And, Jordan and I watch VFX artists react on Corridor Crew and on YouTube. One of the main things is lighting.
Yeah.
And when the lighting is off, you're always going to tell that something looks CG.
But because the lighting's so good in this scene, it looks like he's in the room.
It really does. And they cast the shadows on him. And there are even parts where it's one take and he's moving about the room and the shadows are changing. And I guess to me, watching the movie and going, this is almost 20 years old. This is one of just a handful of fully CG characters that have been made in film. Mm-hmm. He looks incredible.
Yeah, he looks really good.
I don't think he looks quite as good as Smeagol in The Two Towers.
Yeah.
But it's you could make the argument probably.
And you know why one reason why he looks so good besides the lighting and the shading, but because those are so well done, all of his wrinkles make him look better. Same with Smeagol. That's why Smeagol looks so good. Or Gollum. Yeah. But imagine if these elves were just cute and very very young looking. It would be much harder to animate because it would be. I think they talk about it in Corridor Crew where having imperfections help.
Yeah.
Because it makes them feel more real. So the fact that this is a house elf that's hundreds of years old and it's just this old wrinkly.
He's hundreds.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, cool.
Because he's been in the Malfoy family for generations.
Oh,
and generations.
That's cool.
And so basically he's there and he's telling Harry that he must not go back to Hogwarts. And Harry's pretty much, of course, Harry's like, who are you? What's going on? And he's just like, I'm just here to tell you that you are not to go back to Hogwarts. You will be in grave danger if you do. And Harry's like, that's the only place I have. You can't tell me I can't go there. Plus, why would you be telling me this?
Yeah.
And he's like, are you sure you really want to go back, even though your friends haven't been writing you all summer? And Harry's like, well, they're probably... Wait, how do you know that they haven't been writing me?
Yeah.
And then you find out that Dobby has been stealing all of Ron and Hermione's letters all summer to try to get Harry not to want to go back.
Yeah.
So you're like, what is going on? This elf is really annoying at this point. I remember as a kid thinking not annoying in a bad way, just you're really annoying and you're doing a bad thing.
Yeah.
Stop being annoying and bad and just go away. And of course, throughout all of this, he's being very loud and
Mr. Dursley's like,
what's going on?
Yeah.
And he's like, fix that cabinet. And because when Dobby's doing something he shouldn't be doing, and when house elves go against their masters, they abuse themselves. Which is a really,
I like the idea is really awesome. I feel like even watching it now, I'm like, this seems like a little too much for a kid's movie.
It feels like something you would read in an old fairy tale book.
Yeah.
Because obviously you can tell too, he does that because he's abused by his masters.
Yeah.
Therefore, that's his only way to know, that's the only fitting punishment is physical pain.
Yeah.
To him.
And I don't mean, I just want to clarify, I don't mean that it shouldn't have been in the movie or story.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where I'm like, whoa.
Well, it's just, again, and of course, if you read the books, which I think it's in 4 or 5, I think 5, they really dive deep into house elves because they are the ones that make all the food for the children.
Oh, okay.
And Hermione finds out that they have basically no rights.
Oh,
and
sure.
so it's a lot of character development for her to see that later on she will go into professions that take care of animals.
And I gotta take the dive.
It's good.
I gotta jump in.
You see that house elves are just commonly treated very poorly. And it's a weird caste system. They're the bottom of the rung, which is not right. And of course, if you read the books, that's not what she's preaching because of Hermione's character fighting for them, obviously.
Well, and I like good writing, I think, that this house elf is talking to Harry Potter and he's kind of cute and cool looking and stuff like that. But they don't go what would maybe be a natural route, which would be oh, hey, you're my friend. Let's be buds.
Yeah.
Ron's like, dude, Harry's like, you're sucking right now. Let me do my thing. And he's just trying to get him away.
Yeah.
And then their relationship will slowly develop, which is very cool. I think that was That was just wise to do that because the other way's too easy.
Yeah, and that's all from the book. So that's good writing on her part.
Yeah.
So basically, their argument gets taken out into the living room where Dobby's in the living room and Harry's like silently like trying to get him to stop. Dobby levitates a cake and drops it on top of the Dursleys' guest's head.
Yeah.
So Harry is locked in his room at this point.
With bars on the window.
With bars on the windows. That's the solution to all of this because of course it's Harry's fault.
Yeah.
And of course Dobby did it because he's like, if I do this, you will get so in trouble that you won't be they won't let you go to Hogwarts. And it works because the Dursleys are like, you're never going back to that school.
Also, another cool effect thing that they did with Dobby is he snaps his fingers to disappear. But not only that, there's a spark that comes off of his fingers, and there's like a puff of smoke from his fingers.
And he floats, he like disintegrates away.
Yeah, and I'm like, that is such a cool touch that makes it cooler than him just disappearing.
Yeah,
like
it's
a
nice.
spark and
It's like you see the magic.
way cool.
Yeah,
way cool.
It's great. So Harry's confined to his room, and pretty immediately Ron, Fred, and George come and save him in their car, their flying car.
Yeah.
Pull the bars off the window. Dursley's trying to wrangle Harry back inside. Doesn't work. Harry goes with them, even with his trunk. He got it in time with Hedwig.
Yeah.
And this is next we meet the Weasleys.
Yes.
Like the Weasley family. We've met Fred and George and Ginny briefly in the first movie, but spent a little more time with them in this movie. We also see Percy a little bit more, who is the Gryffindor prefect, who's a real B in the books. That's later on, which I told Micah, but I said the word because he is so annoying in the books, but in an understandable way, well written.
Yeah.
But most importantly, we meet Mr. and Mrs. Weasley.
Yeah.
And as we said, great actors. It's great. They look like they're very well represented as parents who are parents of 6 children, not just 6 children, 5 boys.
Yeah.
Their house is one of the coolest sets in the whole movie, I think. And
very cool.
We really explore it later on in movies too. They stay there longer. But you see some really cool practical effects, like the dishes being washed.
Yeah,
by
I think
magic.
they just paint out like the machines that are making them
Totally.
washed.
It looks so cool.
Very cool.
I love that the house is very tall.
Yeah.
It's small rooms, tall house.
Yeah.
And like by tall, like several stories. And I also love that they just live in the middle of a field, and it doesn't look like they live by anyone.
Yeah. Very cool.
And it makes you wonder, like, where do magical people live?
Yeah.
And like, do they have neighbors? But also it's like, if they can just appear and disappear, why would they need neighbors? They can live wherever they want.
Yeah.
It brings up so many cool things, avenues that your mind can go down. So then we meet, you find the Weasley boys get in huge trouble for taking the car because a muggle could have seen them.
Yeah.
And that's very bad. You also see that Mr. Weasley is excited that they took the car, and he's kind of proud of his boys.
Yeah.
And you find out that he works for the Ministry of Magic. He pretty much takes care of those kinds of situations. So he's very fascinated with how muggles live.
Yeah.
Am I boring you?
Well, I mean, let's get to Hogwarts, baby.
I can keep talking about the specifics. So the breakfast they had, I'm just kidding. Okay, you want to talk about the port key, or not the port key, the blue powder?
Yeah, I was gonna kind of skip over it, but
They take blue powder to Diagon Alley, but Harry doesn't say it correctly, and he goes to what's
pretty funny.
the alley?
I don't know. It's like Diagon Alley or something like that.
No. It's something else.
It doesn't matter.
Bad part of town.
And then he meets Hagrid, and then they go and
It's hard not to talk about the plot specifically because it's a mystery bent to it.
Yeah.
Things are important.
Yeah.
I know that's not exactly what this podcast is about, but that's why it's hard not to talk about.
Well, hopefully
these
you've
things.
watched the movie, so you're kind of like,
That's true.
But anyway, Ron and Harry have to take the car to get there in time because they messed up and they missed the train.
Yeah.
And so they drive there. It's pretty fun.
Pretty cool effects, I would say. I think it was
the
pretty
effects
good.
are pretty good.
Yeah.
They even have like a shadow for the car, and so there's a couple of details that I'm just like, wow, they like took the time to add those extra details. Like that part when they meet the spider and the spiders are all attacking the car. One of them gets his leg stuck in the door, and it's a fully CG spider, and I'm just like, what a odd detail to add. Like, it makes it feel so much more real, but it would have been so easy to just not put in the movie. And that probably took so much extra time to add that detail.
Yeah.
And those things are what really make effects work, in my opinion, is those extra like lifelike details.
Right.
And then they get to Hogwarts. They crash in the tree. And who's the teacher that
Weeping
finds
Willow.
them?
Snape.
It's Snape.
Yeah,
so
because he's pretty much like, you guys are going to be expelled for this. And of course, McGonagall's like, don't be ridiculous. They're fine. They are in trouble, but they're fine.
Yeah. And then, we got like the mandrakes.
Oh, and this is an important note. I think it's a little important. Once they're like all fine from the tree and everything, and they're like getting all the stuff out of the car, or like it evacuates all the things out of the car.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah, cool
which
effect.
Is very cool.
Harry's like, oh, Scabbers, and his rat was okay.
Yeah,
that will be important in the next movie.
And I really like how I think it's really fun in this movie that the car kind of has its own mind and keeps coming in and out of the story like 2 or 3 other times.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Deus Machina.
But it's one that's like works for me.
Well, I don't think a Deus Machina is always bad.
Yeah.
Because it saves them, but they have shown it within the story. It's not just a random occurrence.
Yeah.
That's
what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's earned. But it's also just fun that you're like, this car just kind of does what it wants. That's a fun idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then they're in the Mandrake class with this new teacher who's cool. And there are these like root animals that they pull up.
I need to remember what her name is. I'm gonna look it up.
Okay, they pull up out of the ground and they scream. And if you don't have hearing protection, you'll die from their screams.
And what's funny, a funny touch is Neville's earmuffs were not on all the way, and he passed out.
Yeah, and what we have, I wonder if there's more that I haven't noticed, but you have ear stuff, and then you have eye stuff with the basilisk. So you're dealing with like senses and like vulnerability in your senses. Oh, that's an interesting
point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. And
Professor Sprout.
Cool.
Miriam Margol, yes, whatever. Oh, I think she's in Mulan.
Oh.
Like Mulan, not the new one.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
But want to point out that these mandrakes are real. And that is kind of mind-blowing. They are real.
There are several.
There are
all the kids have one.
And you can tell they're real because Malfoy puts his finger in one of them's mouth and it bites him. And it's so wild because it's just something that for 2002 CG we would have been able to tell if that was CG.
Yeah.
Today they probably could have gotten away with it. But even still, it's like so textural that it's not smooth or anything. I mean, it's real. And these things are so cool. Right there, it's just like, oh, baby, take me away. And throughout this movie, there are so many real effects. And they make me so nervous about watching Fantastic Beasts because that's like my favorite part of the universe. Is like, for me, it's not necessarily, I mean, I like the characters, I like the story, but really for me, what does it is seeing all this fun, cool stuff that's real.
Yeah. And I can't remember if we talked about this on the podcast or not.
Okay.
But what's interesting is as the movies go on, I would say that a lot of the special effects become more and more and more CGI. But however, because time is advancing, like it's all looking fine. It's all going ahead at a good rate. Yeah. Nothing's too ridiculous still.
No.
And I think that a lot of that, or I'm just curious if a decision was made for that. Part of it is a lot of the stuff's on a grander scale at that point, but also the story is much more developed and much more important than showing this world that's already been established.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Or
cool.
Curious about.
That's a good point. So they're doing all that. And then there's like the threat of the Chamber of Secrets being opened. And there's like, it's written in blood. And everyone's getting really scared. Yeah. Can you explain like the plot of the Chamber of Secrets?
So they do in a class, Hermione asks Professor McGonagall what the Chamber of Secrets are. And this is when she goes into the history of all the people who created Hogwarts. One of them being Salazar Slytherin. And it's believed that at one point he thought that only purebloods should be admitted to the school. And of course the other 3 founders were like, that's not right.
Yeah.
So they parted ways, like he parted ways with them, and it's believed that he created it. And there is an heir to like the heir to Slytherin is the one who opened it or the one who has the rights to it. And a lot of the movie is trying to figure out who is the heir to that. And of course, they think it's Malfoy.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, that's right.
And it is important early on in the movie in Diagon Alley when we meet Gilderoy Lockhart in a bookstore that Lucius had dropped a book into Ginny Weasley's bag.
Yes.
We did not touch on that. But
yeah.
So that's pretty much the gist of it. The first creature to be petrified is
the cat.
The cat.
Yeah, the groundskeeper.
Oh, what's
cat.
her name? Oh, I said it in the last movie. I'm totally forgetting.
Yeah.
But Filch's cat.
Filch's.
Mrs. Norris.
Oh, he's not groundskeeper Willie from The Simpsons?
No.
I do always think of every time I see him, I'm just like groundskeeper Willie, The Simpsons.
No, he's great because of course who's to discover the cat but Harry, Hermione, and Ron.
Yeah, so they're
and he's like, you guys are gonna be killed for this.
Yeah,
and
he's
then,
like threatening them.
Yeah, and Dumbledore's like, the cat is only petrified. It can be brought back with the mandrake root.
Yeah,
they need the mandrakes to mature in order for it to happen.
Yeah.
So.
And then is it the Quidditch match next? There's the big Quidditch match.
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's just talk about that.
Okay.
The effects, 1 year's difference. The Quidditch match looks so much
Draco's
better.
on the team.
It's
That's
crazy.
a huge deal.
Yeah, he's on the team now.
And it's a huge deal too that Ron broke his wand and all the chaos of getting to school.
Yeah. I know what's funny about these movies and stories is it really is like a story about the details.
It is.
Because as we're plowing through, if you listen to our Mad Max episodes, you can, it's like...
It's not story driven.
It is, but it's not in the same... I mean, it's not detail driven.
Yeah.
Like, the details are like fun extras. But with Harry Potter, it is very much like, oh, you need to know that this wand belonged to this person, and that person is this person's dad. And they did... you have to retain so much information.
And a lot of it not only affects the story, but it's like character development. A lot of it too, which is, I think, part of the reason why people like the story so much is because of character development.
Yeah.
This is another thing that we kind of skipped over too, but we when Ron uses his wand on Draco, he starts spitting out slugs because he does eat slugs to him, so he starts like puking up slugs. And he does that because Draco called Hermione a mudblood.
Yeah.
And then we learn what that means, and that means someone who's a half like like basically muggle born or just not a pure blood, more than anything, not a pure blood, which that's like, I mean, honestly, it's like the N word for wizards. It's like a terrible word to use. And
that brings up the whole like Slytherin, the original house, the founders of Hogwarts, the guy from Slytherin was like, I want this to be only full magic people. And that's why he left the school. And then that's apparently why he built the Chamber of Secrets, to have the heir who would kill the muggles, right?
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
Or mudbloods?
Mudbloods.
Yeah.
But yeah, because muggles are non-magic people.
That's right.
But
I'm figuring it out.
It's just one of those interesting
Are you proud
things
of me, Jordan?
or like, so, that's a lot of Voldemort's thing. It's absolute power, but he's also a pure blood dude. Like, that's what he's going for as well. And he is not a pure blood.
Yeah.
His mom fell in love with a man, just a muggle. And it's just, to me, it reminds me of World War II and Hitler.
Yeah, he was Jewish,
he was
right?
Jewish, or he had
Jewish blood,
Jewish ancestry.
Yeah.
And he's trying to purge the Jews. So it's a interesting parallel, I think.
Yeah.
That is kind of carries throughout this series, but especially in this movie. But
when Harry's in the Quidditch match, the Quidditch, one of the Quidditch equipment things is like attacking him.
Yes.
And they're finally able to stop it, and he breaks his arm. And this is just so funny, is Gilderoy Lockhart's like, let me fix it. And Harry's like, please no, because he's already onto this guy. Oh, because there was that earlier scene with the pixies.
Yeah.
And those pixies are flying around.
So you're seeing that he's
and the CG is crazy on those pixies.
I'd say that's the worst scene in terms of effects, but it does look pretty good.
I think they look cool because they did the smart thing that movies sometimes don't do anymore. Like Gollum, like Dobby, they're okay with letting the pixies look cartoony.
Oh yeah, that part's
And
fine.
I think they're really fun.
But this was kind of like the birds, a little bit of a situation.
Oh yeah, where they're like flailing around and
Yeah.
not interacting with real
And the
stuff.
kids are just swinging books around. And that's really just the only thing it looks like. Doesn't really look like they're hitting anyone.
I just think the pixies are like gremlins, and they're
Yeah.
kind of fun.
No, they're cool. I think they're cool.
But
that's,
Gilderoy does the spell.
Yeah.
And it hits his arm, and it gets rid of his bones.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how they did that either, because it looked. His
arm was just tucked into his cloak.
Yeah, and they had like a fake arm.
Yeah.
That is wiggling around, not CG.
No.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
And then he has to grow back his bones, which is apparently like very, very painful.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Yeah, really good. But then what happens after that?
Well,
Is that when Colin Creevy is petrified, the kid, with the camera?
I think so.
Because I think that's when Harry is in the hospital wing and they bring in him. Oh, but so Harry's in the hospital wing and Dobby comes back to tell him, why are you here? I told you not to come here. And he was like, why are you here?
I told you not to come here.
Pretty much. And then I think that's when he finds out Malfoy is his master? Oh, because, he keeps hurting himself and he's like, why do you keep doing that? And he's like, if I do anything to betray my master, I must punish myself.
Yeah.
But it's been a couple of days since we watched the movie, so I can't remember what specific anecdote or little nugget of information he gave to Harry. But that's when the kid gets brought in with the camera and he's petrified, and it's becoming more and more like maybe we need to shut down the school because now a student has been harmed.
Yeah. And then we learn about Moaning Myrtle and that she died mysteriously. People aren't really sure why.
So just girls don't go into that bathroom because she's terribly annoying.
Yeah.
And
boy, is she ever terribly
she's-
annoying.
yeah, very-
She makes
very
up for
good.
it because she's Babu Frick, but ugh.
But she does good acting because that's how you're supposed to
But
feel.
the high pitched stuff is just too much.
Yeah. And the reason they go in there is because they're making a polyjuice potion to turn into Crabbe and Goyle and another Slytherin girl to extract information from Malfoy about the heir of Slytherin.
Sounds like something a detective would do using a disguise. This is a noir movie.
So we're going to fast track to that scene.
One thing I gotta say though about me personally, if you have noticed a pattern, because if you listen to our Iron Man 3 episode, I'm going off about this as well. When a movie takes the noir formula and adds it to a different genre besides mystery, I 100% of the time absolutely fall head over heels for that. I love that idea so much, and every time it's in something else, I'm just like, did you see that was like a noir thing? That's cool.
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh, shut up about the noir thing, too late. It's one of my favorite things that people do.
Well, that's why you love this movie so much.
I know. That's why I don't know if it can be beat, because I just love the whodunit of like, who's petrifying who? And then it's coupled pretty perfectly with just this fantasy element.
Yeah.
And you're seeing a whodunit in a fantasy world.
Yeah.
And it's even in a house, like a Knives Out situation. It's like, I'm unsafe in this house. Like, who is doing this? It's so cool.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
great.
that about this movie.
Yeah.
And the practical effects.
There's just so much. There's so much.
I mean, there's a phoenix in this movie, folks, that is a real practical phoenix, like puppet animatronic effect. And I just want that in my apartment. That thing is so cool.
Yeah.
And that scene at the end when it cries, practical.
Yeah.
Forget about it. Come on. You just don't see that in movies anymore.
Yeah.
You just don't.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get a resurgence in the next 5 years, though.
I think so too.
And we
Especially
are
with
still
Dark
getting it with
Crystal.
Star Wars. But when Dark Crystal came out on Netflix, I think studios are going to start paying attention to that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Harry, Ron, and Hermione take the polyjuice potion, but unfortunately Hermione had a cat hair, not the girl's hair, and she turns into a cat.
And she's allergic to cats.
Did she say that?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
Just a crazy, needless detail
Really
that might
cool,
be in the series.
Really cool. I mean, costume that they created for her that you maybe see for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So Harry and Ron have to go alone, and they're talking to Malfoy as Crabbe and Goyle. And they're like, who do you think it is? And they're like, we were just talking about this. And they're thinking that, wait, who did they think? Is that when they learn about Tom Riddle? No. This movie is there's this is a long movie. There's so much stuff that happens in it.
It is 241.
Yeah,
and what's
it's a long movie.
crazy is this is a kids movie. What's even crazier is it really doesn't feel like
No,
241.
not at all.
I think this movie feels shorter than Philosopher's
But when you're
Stone.
trying to tell when you're trying to talk about it, it's like, did that happen this time or this time? Did they learn the information from this person or this person? So because I can't quite remember right now, they do it. They get information from Malfoy. They come back, and they turn back into Ron and Harry.
Yeah.
And then eventually Hermione gets petrified. And she was found holding a mirror. And
now, if I can jump
Yeah.
in, flashback to our episode of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And you'll remember me talking about how in a lot of great sequels, what do? You break up the team.
Yeah.
And you have them go on separate adventures.
Yeah.
And this movie, it doesn't quite like make them separate adventures, but the fact that they take Hermione out of the equation means you can't rely on her magic and stuff. So Ron and Harry have to really figure things out, which is really cool. You see a new dynamic to their relationship, so you're not bored with the fact that you're just seeing the same experience that you saw last time.
Totally.
Really smart, JK. Love that you did that.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping
you-
the next movie, Hermione is kind of leading the pack again,
Yeah.
right?
Do you remember how Harry got the book? Because I can't at this moment.
He gets the book in the Chamber of Secrets because
No. He had the book before because the book took him into the book to show him memories.
Oh yeah, which was cool.
I think the book was mysteriously given to him. Whatever. I just can't remember right now. And I can't remember at this moment because at one point he goes to Dumbledore's office and he sees the Phoenix, and Harry also asks the Hat, like, should I be in Slytherin?
Yeah,
And then
because he's thinking he's the heir.
yeah, and I can't quite remember what Dumbledore tells him. For some reason.
I can't either.
But if someone tells him, follow the spiders, and it could have been Dumbledore.
Oh no, that's Hagrid.
Okay, I
Because
thought
he
that
goes
was
to
Hagrid.
Hagrid's, and that because
That's right.
in the vision of the book.
So that happened before the forest.
Yes, in the vision of the book, he sees Tom Riddle talking to Hagrid, and he's like, "You can't let this creature out." Which
They think that it's the basilisk.
They think that, but it turns out that it's this spider that he was just like friends with that he wasn't supposed to have, but it's
Yeah.
like just this spider that lives in the forest.
And because he had it and he became a suspect of the Chamber of Secrets, Hagrid, he was expelled from Hogwarts.
And sent to Azkaban.
Well, not for that. Not when he was a kid.
Oh, I thought you were talking about in the...
No, but
I'm
so
sorry.
he was expelled, simple as that. And then, of course, Dumbledore, like, knowing everything, was like, of course, I trust you and believe you.
Yeah.
And you will get to be the groundskeeper. So then, in the present, Ron and Harry go to Hagrid's, and they have to use the Cloak of Invisibility because the minister shows up, Lucius shows up, and Lucius gives Dumbledore's papers saying that you cannot be the... superintendent of the school anymore.
I mean, yeah.
And then Hagrid is also
principal.
Yeah, he runs the school.
I think they call the headmaster. That's what they call him. Yeah.
And then Hagrid is taken to Azkaban because he was a suspect once, and they're just like, we have to cover our bases.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're coming with us. And that's when Hagrid says, follow the spiders.
Yeah, because he can't explain the story now. So they go in and they follow the spiders. And when they're there, this spider comes out and it's huge.
And it's practical.
And baby, it's practical.
And his name's Aragog.
It is so cool. I love the spider. In terms of where we're at on the movie, I'm thinking Aragog, the name? Aragog, I think, has got to be the coolest effect, right? It's like Aragog, the practical basilisks, the mandrake, the phoenix.
Yeah.
I want all of those things. I want to see them in real life and touch them. They're so
And we probably
cool.
saw a mandrake at Warner Brothers.
We probably did, but I hadn't seen a Harry Potter yet. So now I got to go to Warner Brothers again.
Yeah.
Because Aragog is so cool.
Yeah.
I just love it.
And he's great too because he's such an interesting, mysterious character because the kids go there and they learn information. They're like, "Okay, thanks, see ya." And he's like, "No, I'm sorry. I cannot deny my children a meal that comes in so willingly."
Yeah.
So they have to fight their way out of the forest 2 second years with a broken wand.
Yeah.
And of course, that's when the Deus Ex Machina moment happens and the car shows up and they make their way out. Just a really cool scene. I love that it was similar to the last movie when they see the unicorn because everything was so dark and then it was all like basically lighted by moonlight. Like that was the light source. Mm-hmm. I think they got a way. I feel like they were able to cut a lot of corners.
Yeah.
Because it was so dark.
They didn't have to do a lot of detail on the spiders.
Yeah. So-
and I think because you see this huge spider and it's real, your brain is like, oh, these are all real. Like you just kind of fill in the blanks. But man, Aragog is so
I remember the real
cool.
spider that latches onto Ron in the car.
Yeah, it like smashes the window and grabs him, and that one's real too.
Yeah.
And this, I'm like hitting Jordan because she's on Procreate, making cool art, and she's seen him 1,000 times, so that's fine. But I'm hitting her, and I'm like,
Thanks
"Are
for
you?"
throwing me under the bus?
No, I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus. I was trying to throw you into the dark forest to get eaten by spiders. Okay. I'm smacking you, and I'm like, "Are you seeing this? This is crazy!" Because it's finally clicking for me. Like, dang, this is a cool series. I'm into this.
Yeah.
And then they open the Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, they.
Well, you know what we didn't talk about is that Malfoy and Harry have like a wand off, like a duel, and
Dark
Harry
Arts
speaks
class.
to this snake in partial tongue, so everyone's like, he's the heir, he's a bad dude, and it looks like he was getting it to attack someone.
But when he was actually getting it to not attack a kid.
Yeah.
Nice touch, man.
And Gilderoy tries to fight Snape, and he
Hilarious.
just totally loses. Great.
But
I love how
excuses for it.
committed to this performance Kenneth Branagh is.
And Snape or Alan Rickman.
Of course, that goes without saying.
Right.
Literally, I didn't say it.
So they get out, they're fine, and then I think that's when Harry finds the note that has been in Hermione's hand this whole time.
Yeah,
because he was visiting her.
Convenient much?
Well,
no, it's fine. I don't care.
And yeah,
wouldn't that be a stupid thing to point out in a series like, I don't know, like a Cinema Sins or something?
Do they?
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, so then they get the note that has notes. They get the note that has notes on it. So Hermione had been researching this whole thing. She finds out that what it is a basilisk. And they're like, how's it been getting around the school? She wrote pipes. And then she
wait a second.
Also wrote, she wrote something else about where the entrance is.
Yeah. It's in the bathroom.
Right.
They figure it out because they're like,
That's
where
right,
do the
they do.
pipes start? They go there.
That's right.
And then he takes Gilderoy Lockhart with him and Ron and Gilderoy.
Yeah.
And he speaks partial tongue.
This is
it
important.
Opens the chamber.
So more things have been written in blood, which is about Ginny being taken.
That's right.
And she will die.
That's right.
And the ironic part about that is Ginny is a pureblood. I think that's funny. Not funny, just interesting.
Yeah.
And then Gilderoy's like, or pretty much Snape's like, Gilderoy, you do it. You've been talking forever about how you just can't wait to defeat this thing. So then Gilderoy's like, sure, fine. And he goes to this office and he's packing up to leave.
Yeah.
And Ron and Harry and Ron are like, but you're supposed to be one of the greatest wizards ever. And he's like, he says something. I love the way that he says it.
It's just something along the lines of like, haven't you ever heard of exaggeration?
Yeah, but I love the line. The line is so good.
It's better than that.
But yeah, so he's like, I steal people's stories. I'm a fake.
Yeah.
But I'm really good at memory spells.
And so he's like, I'm going to erase yours. And then they're like, no, dude.
Yeah.
They threaten him. They take him. They get into the Chamber of Secrets. Mm-hmm. They go down there. There is, once again, frickin' practical snake skin that is laying around that's huge. Crazy, really scary. Don't want to look at it, but can't stop looking at it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Gilderoy grabs Ron's wand.
Ron's broken wand.
And he tries to do a spell, but it's broken. It backfires, and he forgets everything that he's ever done. Mm-hmm. He doesn't even know who he is.
Nope. Which means the spell made some rocks fall, so now it's Harry is alone going to the Chamber of Secrets.
That's right, yeah.
So he gets there alone, and he sees Tom Riddle. He meets Tom Riddle, yes. And Ginny is passed out on the ground.
He's dying.
And Harry's like, Ginny, wake up. And Tom Riddle's pretty much like, there's nothing you can do for her.
Yes.
And he's like, can't you help me? Because at this point, he doesn't know that Tom's bad.
Yeah.
And then Tom Riddle's like, don't you, or he's like, says something about Voldemort. And he's like, Voldemort is after your time or before your time. I don't remember. And he's like, Voldemort was.
And will be
my
time.
Yeah.
And then he unscrambles his name.
And it says, I am Lord Voldemort.
Yes, which is one of those funny moments that's like pretty goofy.
Yeah.
But I think as a kid reading the story, watching the movie, it's like, it's such a memento into the movie or like Inception moment where you're just like, what?
Yeah.
That spells I'm Lord Voldemort.
And I gotta say, so later in Half-Blood Prince, there are several flashbacks of Tom Riddle with a certain professor. And I gotta say that like this guy is really good, I think, in Chamber of Secrets. But this other kid, and I think it was cool because I think they both got him at different enough age ranges that it's not like, who's this guy?
Oh, okay.
But that kid is so good.
Okay.
Later on. I don't know why I'm bringing it up right now. But it's just like, this guy's really good, but they actually got someone better.
Yeah.
But for very small amount of scenes.
Yeah.
And this guy's not in it very much. And I feel like he does very well, too. So pretty much Voldemort's like, the Basilisk's going to come and kill you. There's nothing you can do.
Basilisk comes out. And you're like, this thing looks pretty cool. Like the design, kind of dragon-esque.
And you first noticed, you were like, look at the water.
I don't know how they did this because there's a CG part and it goes through water and the ripples are all natural. So they must have had like some sort of boatish device or something that they skidded across the water and then did the effects over it.
Yeah, they had to.
Because it was not like a simulated water.
Yeah,
they didn't have that technology back then.
No.
Crazy. And then they do the thing that they do in the first Jurassic Park movie where it's like, okay, if we angle the shot certain ways, we can build a full-size head that like pokes its head down. And then when it's a full body, we'll do CGI. But they do that, and there are these shots where it's just the basilisk's head, and it is a real head.
And it's scary.
And it's horrifying.
Yeah, and you're like
love it.
Thinking Harry is no match for this basilisk. But quickly the Phoenix
flies
comes
down
and
pecks
gouges
its eyes out.
Yeah.
So now he doesn't have to worry about looking at it. Sorry, I cut you off so much.
Fine.
I'm just so excited because I love the basilisk. It's so cool. And guess what? No one else is allowed to look at it, but you sure as hell can look at that thing because you ain't gonna freeze. You're gonna love it.
Oh gosh.
Should I cut that?
No, it's fine. I just didn't know where you were going. The important thing about it gouging out its eyes means that it cannot kill Harry.
Yeah.
With its eyes.
It has to bite it.
It has to just swallow him up.
Yeah.
So he's blinded, going through some pipes, and Harry's trying to evade it. I just love how it's this big, epic reveal of what it is. And then it becomes very small, and they're in pipes, and it's very quiet. And I can't remember right now, but I feel like there was little to no music.
Yeah.
And then they go back out into the big chamber, and Harry it's just like, there's nothing you can do. There's no way you can fight this thing off. He's not strong enough.
A sword appears in the sorting hat that the Phoenix dropped off.
Yep. Okay. So he gets the Sword of Gryffindor, which is awesome.
So it's like Gryffindor versus Slytherins. Like sword
but
versus
the sword is only given to someone if they're worthy of it.
Oh, cool.
Which is
kind of like a sword in the stone sort of thing
as well. What?
Like Sword in the Stone, kind of?
Pretty much.
This is all kind of fairy tale based.
It's an interesting thing, too, because this whole time you're like, Harry might be the heir to Slytherin.
Yeah.
And then but then he gets the sword and you're like, no, he is Gryffindor because he got the sword because he was worthy of it. And then he kills the basilisk.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And part of the
really impressive
fang
stuff.
goes into Harry's arm and it's poisonous, so Harry's gonna die. But he takes out the fang and he smashes it, stabs the book, Tom Riddle's book.
It's bleeding like this black blood, which you're just kind of. That's another moment like the I don't even remember, but earlier in the podcast I said something. Oh, like Dobby being abusive, where you're like, this isn't a kid's movie. There's like black blood pouring out of this thing.
You know what I like too with this is, so Tom Riddle's there the whole time, but he's not. Basically, he is sucking Ginny's life force out so that he can become
powerful.
Yeah. So what's cool is like in a lot of movies, I feel like there would be this epic battle scene with a basilisk, and then it'd be over and Harry won, and it's like. Cool. And then Tom Riddle's like, I'm a little powerful enough to fight you.
Yeah.
But no, he's just on the sidelines because he still can't do anything. So when
that's
Harry...
the thing they did in Philosopher's Stone that I really liked, where it was just like, no, it's taken care of. We don't have to have the like, oh, I thought he was victorious. He's not victorious. Now he's victorious. Now he's not.
You just get
now
so fatigued.
He's victorious.
Yeah. So when he stabs the book, it's just like Tom Riddle can't stop him.
Yeah.
He just does it.
And that's that.
And then Ginny wakes up because of it, and the Phoenix come and blink some teardrops onto Harry's arm.
And it's
onto
practical.
His arm. Yeah. And then they get back out. By that time, all the petrified people are unpetrified. And they
And
have
that's
a
when
really,
it does the needle drop of the celebrate good times.
but it's
Come
really
on.
great because Ron, Hermione, and Harry are reunited, and she's like, "You guys figured it out. That's so great." And they're like, we wouldn't have gotten close without you."
Yeah, and
Friendship.
It's very nice.
And
moment.
even you're just like, that's really sweet. But then it gets even sweeter because they're in the hall where they eat. I still am blanking on the name of what you would call that.
The Great Hall.
It's probably that's actually what it's called. So it's where it's the end of the school year, and all the kids are there, and they're like, everyone's fine. But then the doors swing open, and you see Hagrid, and he's back.
This almost got me to well up.
Right?
I was close to welling up.
Yeah, because Ron and Hermione, they all look at him and they're all beaming, and he walks up to Harry and he's like, I guess I owe you a thank you.
Yeah, because he's like, I would have been stuck in prison if it weren't for you guys.
Yeah, and then
And you're
they
like,
just
"That's
hug
so
him,
cool.
and it's just
That's so
sweet.
sweet."
And Dumbledore stands up and starts clapping, and everyone starts clapping, and then he's like, "All exams are canceled."
Which is that moment is such a
That
cathartic
made us
moment as
cry.
a kid. You're
That
just
made
like,
us cry.
could you imagine where all exams are canceled? How that was always the dream. That
Yeah.
like something when you were a kid would happen that would prevent your like tests or whatever, and it would be they'd just be like, sorry, we just can't do it. So next year you just move to the next grade.
Yeah,
and that's
And
it.
you're like, oh, thank God, I was really failing potions. Neville was probably like, oh.
And then there's the last sequence where Dumbledore and Harry are catching up. Dumbledore's doing his awesome wisdom. He's being all Gandalf like, and then Jason Isaac comes in and he's like, boo-ba-da-ba.
No, he's with Dumbledore.
That's what I said.
Oh, I thought you said Hagrid. You probably said Dumbledore.
Well, I'll find out when I edit.
Well, actually, that's an important scene because Harry's just like, my scar has been hurting a lot.
Scene.
Well, you were skipping over it.
No, I wasn't skipping.
But
over
pretty
it.
much, Harry has some questions about himself, about how he's been feeling this whole time.
Yeah.
And Dumbledore's like, well, think about it. Like, it seems as though someone who tried killing you and someone sacrificed themselves, seems like some of his power on that night has transferred into you. And that's why some of the, like, Parseltongue works for him. And maybe some other suspicious things work for him. And then Lucius...
a literary trick known as foreshadowing.
Yes. And then Lucius barges in and is like, blah, blah, blah.
I'm mad.
Yeah.
and then Harry's like, hey, you forgot your book.
Yeah. And he's
Is
like,
it the remnants of the
It is.
of the book?
And he's
then,
like, what are you talking about?
and Harry had slipped his sock into the book and he hands it to him.
Well,
And
Lucius hands it to Dobby.
no, Harry hands it to him and then he goes away and he's all mad. And then Harry comes out or Jason Isaacs turns and he says something like, you better next time there won't be a phoenix to save you or something like that. Something about killing him. And then I guess Daniel Radcliffe improvised this really great line where he's like, next time I'll beat you. Or he says something. There's some like big line that he says that was improvised. Keep talking about the scene and I'll look it up.
Okay. So Lucius turns to walk out and he hands the book to Dobby. And Dobby looks at Harry and Harry says, open the book. And there is a sock in the book. And Dobby says, Master has given Dobby a sock. Dobby's a free elf. And Lucius is like, how could this happen? And then you see that Harry had taken off his sock and put it in the book and Dobby is now free. And Lucius gets so mad. And I don't know if you looked this up, Micah, but Lucius starts saying Avada, which is the beginning of Avada Kedavra, which would kill Harry. It's the killing curse. But Dobby, of course, snaps his fingers or something and gets Lucius off. Like he thwarts him.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my gosh, he was about to kill Harry straight up in cold blood. And I just don't know if you looked that up. Like, because it's just like that curse has not been taught to the children until the fourth movie, and which means it has not been written about until the fourth movie. And of course, I think that just goes to show, like, because today we were talking about, like, it kind of feels like maybe she didn't have that much figured out until she was going along. which is how a lot of writers work. But
Yeah.
I feel like that's true for some things. Like some things later on, she's like, "Oh, I can use the Sword of Gryffindor again."
Yeah.
Thank
No,
God.
I think it was very planned out.
But
That's what we were talking about.
But I think that was like she's just like very good
This'll
at
be
world,
something
really
later.
good at world
Yeah.
building. So she's like probably in her free time was just like, these are what spells are, and these are what these ones do, and this is what they're called. So she's probably had that curse like in her thought, like written down in notes for a long time. So it's so cool.
It's a nice payoff. So this is something that Jason Isaacs said. He said, "I remember my very first day, I improvised a line. I had my first day, probably my first shot. I had to kind of flounce out of a room when Dumbledore, played by the late, great Richard Harris, put me in my place, and there was no line written, no exit line. And I'd been humiliated, and my plan had come to nothing. And I said to Chris Columbus, 'Don't you think there should be a line?' And he said, 'Well, say something, say whatever you like.' So he did another take, and I hadn't told anyone what I was going to do. And as I turned to leave, I looked at Daniel and I said, 'Let us hope Mr. Potter will always be around to save the day.'" Remember he says that?
Oh, but then Harry says, "Oh, I will be."
He says, "Don't worry, I will be."
Yeah.
And in this quote he says, "And then Daniel, who was all of 12, stepped right up to me, looked me right in the eye and said, 'Don't worry, I will be.'"
Oh, that is
A
so
chill
cool.
went down my spine.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
And then as he goes away, he storms off. Dobby thwarts his curse. Dobby turns to Harry and is like, "How can I ever repay you?" And Harry says, "Don't ever try to save my life again."
Oh.
Oh.
And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So we are in the second movie of the series that shall not be named.
Especially thank you for listening to our ramblings on this one.
I think this was a good one.
This whole series is an onion, but this movie was its own onion as well.
And next week we're doing The Prisoner of Azkaban, where Gary Oldman, the late Gary Oldman,
Not only Gary Oldman.
he's not late, he's alive.
Yeah,
What am I
he's
talking
very
about?
much alive. Lupin, which by the next movie you'll find out what that actor's name is.
Yes.
Same as me.
Love this one. This one's way better than Philosopher's Stone and maybe better than all the rest. I'll find
Hot
out.
take.
The plugs. Comment on our iTunes, please.
Subscribe to this podcast.
Sign up for Patreon. I have a sweatshirt and a new t-shirt that are for the release of my album Imbalances, which is going to be released officially March 13th. It's a Friday. There's going to be a release show. Not entirely certain on the venue. We have a couple of ideas. We will be returning with that thought. But if you sign up on Patreon this January, you can get anytime you can get 15% off of the shirt or the sweatshirt or really anything you want to order on my website. And so I wanted to plug that, and I think that's it.
I would like to know who sent me Bird by Anne Lamott. I got it in the mail, and
Whoever did that is so nice. It's like that is so nice. It's a book on writing, right?
Did not buy this book. Yeah, some instructions on writing in life.
Well, should we plug your short story or not yet?
Well, I just don't know when it's coming out, but I have a short story that has been selected or accepted by the Show Bear Family Circus.
Ooh, that's very exciting. Cool. Well, tune in next week. Let us know how you are feeling about the series that shall not be named.
Yay!
And I challenge you to get one person extra to listen to this episode. Bye, folks.